Welcome to USA Global TV and Radio, where our mission is to provide education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. USA Global TV and Radio connects you with experts and audiences all around the world every single day to help you succeed in business and to live a richer life. Visit us at usaglobaltv.com to learn about career and life-changing training and mentoring programs like the Listening Mentor. Subscribe to our newsletter to stay informed about our special programs and offers. Discover how you can become a guest on one of our shows or a host or producer of a USA Global TV and Radio show of your very own. That's USA Global TV and Radio, where the doctor is always in.
Hello, beautiful soul family, and welcome to Weekly Wisdom and Insights, your home for spiritually guided transformation and empowerment. I am your host, Dearjames, and together with the unseen, Spirit, Source, and Symphony, we look at the current energies, the intuitive wisdom and insights, and we go as guided. And we begin this episode, it's all about Venus, and you will see Venus, Mary Magdalene, the Divine Feminine, and this call to action. But before we get into that, welcome Kiki, welcome Alicia. Let's take a look at our main energies. So we're looking, we've got double ones, the creative, initiate, because of course January is a 1 month and 2026 is a universal 1 year. We're working with hexagram 14, great possessing, shine, that it is this time to shine. Welcome Olivia. And of course 7, this legions, army, correct discipline, that we all always have everything that we need in any given moment. So let's take a look, and this is going to be just so exciting. We're working with the Venus enters Aquarius chart. It's coming up on the 17th of January, and these first 90 days of 2026 are incredibly powerful astrologically, major shifts. So we've been talking about this. Neptune on 1/26/26, Neptune re-enters Aries. It will stay there as we move forward. It's followed by Saturn entering Aries in early mid-February. They'll co-present. And then we have the first 2 eclipses, a solar eclipse on the 17th. We change from the snake, the wood snake, to the fire horse on the 17th of February. And then we have the partial lunar eclipse on the 3rd of March. It's just, there's one kaboom after another. Well, here's Venus enters Aquarius. And back on March 22nd of 2023, it was number 4. Let me just bring this back up here for a second. It was number 4 and 5 in that show. And it was the fact that Mary Magdalene takes the lead, takes the helm. And number 5 was, the quote from the Japanese Admiral Yamamoto, who planned the attack on Pearl Harbor. And the quote is, "I fear all we have done is to awaken a sleeping giant and fill him with a terrible resolve." This is all about divine feminine awakening, the awakening to that. And this, how Mary Magdalene takes the lead. So let's take a look. Venus, we're going to connect Venus, Mary Magdalene, and the Holy of Holies. But let's just take a look. I'm going to bounce back to this astrological chart. Well, the minute I saw this chart, again, intuitively, I kept hearing ZORRO. And 2026 is the great awakening, the great unfolding. So, Zorro. Zorro is Spanish for fox, a word implying cunning, cleverness, and slyness, famously embodied by the masked vigilante hero created by Johnston McCulley in 1919, who fights for the oppressed. His character in U.S. Westerns wears a black mask to hide his real identity when fighting evil, and is Hollywood's first swashbuckling hero. He wields a cape and a sword with panache and announces his presence by slashing the letter Z on a wall with his sword. Like the legendary English outlaw Robin Hood, Zorro robs from the rich and gives to the poor. So we have this beautiful chart. Again, it was just Zorro, Zorro, Zorro. And then, why? Well, because we're looking at these, and you see the 3 slashes, of Zorro on the astrological as above, so below. It's because we're working with the Sun, Venus, Cazimi, then Venus, Mars conjunction, divine feminine, divine masculine coming together, then the Sun, Mars, Cazimi, and then upcoming Venus enters Aquarius. And I'm going to tie all of this together throughout the episode. But the point is that we have this, kind of robbing from the rich, giving to the poor, and how, but this is about rebalancing and how the divine feminine, the innate goodness in all of us, and where that has been oppressed and suppressed and maligned for millennia, returns, rises, takes the lead, comes back to the fore. And who's doing that? Mary Magdalene. I'll explain that in a moment. I want to jump to really quickly it's Proverbs 25:28. A person without self-control is like a city with broken down walls. And then this is from hopehealingwords.com. What a picture this verse gives. When someone lacks self-control, they can bring a lot of destruction to those around them, like a city without walls. During biblical times, the cities had walls around them to protect them from other armies trying to conquer. If the walls were broken in any area, then it was useless and they could be easily conquered. This is what it is like for someone who lacks self-control, even just a little bit. Think of this verse and the opposite of someone who lacks self-control. Someone who allows the divine to be in control. Self-control builds up protection like a city with strong walls. When you have self-control and allow the divine to lead you, you have peace within yourself, just like a city will have peace within its fortified walls. And this correlates to hexagram 14, which is known as great possessing, shine, and how humility, authenticity, and is the actual basis, the foundation of self-control, self-discipline, and how that radiates and multiplies and amplifies in the most positive, empowering way, because it's being done from a place of purity and strength because of self-discipline, self-control. So we begin with that. Well, let's jump into our main theme. And our main theme is Mary rising, the Holy of Holies, a call to action. And you're going to hear this phrase, a call to action, a spiritual call, throughout. You're going to see it in multiple different places throughout this episode of Weekly Wisdom and Insights, because that is what Mary is heralding, this call to action. Mary rising, the Holy of Holies. And let me just take us right to our mantra. Our mantra is rise. Spiritually, rise means to awaken, renew, and elevate, moving from a lower state to a higher one, symbolizing overcoming trials. It's a divine call. It's transformation and new life. It's a call to action to step into divine will and purpose, overcome challenges, and radiate spiritual light. We are being asked guided, loudly shaken to this call to action to rise, that we have a choice, and that we do not have to succumb to the shadow, to the goo, to that element of the past that we are facing. We need not double and quadruple down on that. We can turn and pivot. It doesn't mean to ignore where we are and the choices that collectively and individually have led us to this point. However, it's a call to action that says, rise, great possessing, shine your light, make better choices, different choices. And how ZORRO, this Z-shaped, that's coming from on high, and how that's going to rebalance the wheel. Because remember, it's about the Wheel of Fortune. 2026 is a 10-year, which becomes a 1 year. So it is, in the tarot, 10 is the Wheel of Fortune, which means the continuity of life and how the wheel is ever changing and moving onward. Which also brings us into the Magician, which is the master manifester. And so we co-create with the divine. We have all the tools we need within us to shine, to rise to this call to action. And why? Well, because we're meant to advance. That's the moral. That's the purpose of life, is to advance, to evolve, to ascend and transcend. It is not to go backwards. And so again, it's about the illusions, and that brings me to number 1 from the unseen. They said, tearing away, quote, the veil of illusion, we all collectively rise. So this ZORRO, and I'm just bringing this up with all of this, the sun, Venus, and Mars conjunct, having these kazimis being together. And then Venus entering Aquarius, the sign of the future. And how ZORRO, how in Roman times or Greek times they would have said, and how the gods, God, the as above so below, the unseen is saying, we've got you. We got you, boo. We've got you all. And it's number 3 from the unseen is ZORRO. Takes a bite out of crime. Bigly. There's a pun playing there. So ZORRO takes a bite out of crime. Bigly. 3 exclamation points. And then 3 slashes. So there may be 3 major events that take place, that transpire. Decisions, actions, people finally rising to push back. That takes a bite out of crime, out of the goo. And that takes a bite out of crime is McGruff. It's the, pardon me, let me put my specs on. The crime dog slogan. It's from the National Crime Prevention Council in 1980. This take a bite out of crime, and it's the McGruff crime dog. Well, that immediately went into number 4 of the unseen from them. And I heard Canis Major, that's the constellation Canis Major, Sirius A. Sirius A is known as the dog star. It's the brightest star in the night sky. And Sirius A sits at 14 degrees Cancer. So let me just bring this the astrological chart back up. And so here's Jupiter, the great benefic, is at 19 degrees Cancer. So Sirius A and Jupiter retrograde are sitting, they're conjunct, they're next to one another. And they are directly opposing the moon, Mercury, Mars, and the sun. So they're playing this pivotal role, this ZORRO aspect of how they're going to illuminate. It's going to illuminate what's been hidden. It's going to take a bite out of crime. It's going to level the playing field is what I'm hearing. This kind of reset. Remember, it's a hard reset, this hard reset. And that in essence, no matter how you try to create evil and chaos and discord in the world, there is a higher power in charge. There is a higher power that can wipe out. Again, if that Proverbs, if you're not utilizing self-discipline, self-control, well, then, a person without self-control is like a city with broken down walls. And so the unseen is making it very clear. We're stepping in. We're in control. And while everything is purposeful, everything plays its part in its role, so that we see, is this, individually and collectively, is this the world we wish to live in? And when that answer is a resounding no, it's not. We want what's on offer before us. Well, then it's a call to action. We must all rise to the moment, to the occasion. It's number 2 from the unseen. One for all and all for one. And then they said divine intervention. Because remember, we're all in reciprocity. So what we do to another, we do to ourselves. What we do to ourselves, we're doing to others. What we do affects the unseen, the other realms of existence, and vice versa. And so this one for all and all for one. And of course, it's a famous saying from the 3, and they put in parentheses 4 musketeers. And so you have this Zorro, Robin Hood, the 3/4 musketeers. There's a theme here about how it's not massive armies. Zorro is one individual, Robin Hood, one individual. The 3/4 musketeers, 3/4 individuals, can change the trajectory of the world positively. So while we're seeing that happen negatively, and of course then it's not just those single actors, there are those that aid and support, right? So big themes here. Mary rising, the Holy of Holies, a call to action. Let me just bring up that image because it is so incredibly beautiful. And you see her scarlet robe, and so forth, being released as she's rising. There's a higher octave. We've talked about this a lot, this higher octave that is available to all of us and that we are ascending to, that we are moving into this Aquarian era, matriarchal era, the divine feminine era, the return of the purity and the reverence and the respect of the divine feminine within all of us. This is not, again, gender-based. There is divine feminine within all of us. And divine masculine, of course, and where are those in harmony and where are they out of balance? And so this Mary rising is about bringing back the harmony and the divine feminine element so that we get into harmony, so that we learn how to speak with one another and treat one another. And first and foremost, we must figure out how to do that with ourselves. So first and foremost, where are we within ourselves? Where are we out of balance? Too much yin, too much yang, not enough? Where are we individually? And then how does that ripple out into our relationships, our communities, our governments, our nations, our world? That's where we are. So we have tearing away the veil of illusion. We all collectively rise. One for all and all for one, divine intervention. And this has Zorro, Robin Hood, the 3/4 musketeers, and how Zorro takes a bite out of crime, bigly. 3 slashes, so 3 major events upcoming. And this Canis Major, Sirius A, how Sirius A, the star, is conjunct Jupiter. It's known as the dog star. And brightest star in the night sky. It's our closest, so the Canis Major Dwarf Galaxy is our closest galactic neighbor. And how this conjunction and what's happening with all of this, and the unseen said, get ready to rumble. Well, get ready to rumble. It's a famous catchphrase of boxing announcer Michael Buffer, signifying the start of a fight or competition, originating from Muhammad Ali's Rumble, young man rumble, and trademarked by Buffer, becoming a massive cultural phenomenon used across sports, entertainment, and media for decades. Here's the important, to build excitement and signal impending action. So here the unseen is talking about Canis Major, the constellation, our closest galactic neighbor, Sirius A, the brightest star, conjunct Jupiter, the great benefic, ZORRO, Venus entering Aquarius, and all of this, and the Cazimis, and this get ready to rumble, this trademarked announcement to build excitement and signal impending action in a positive way. We see some impending actions that could be very negative, catastrophic, creating further chaos. But the Master Weaver, the host, says, not so fast. Not so fast. So let's jump into, and I want to tie this in. Here's Chani Nicholas, the astrologer. This is from her, the weekly issue number 98. Welcome, Elizabeth. Sorry, let me just see. Yes. And Chani Nicholas is talking about endings equal new beginnings. Ready those finishing touches. It's time to get your projects into tip-top shape. The beginning of the week brings inspiring combos, new connections, and the motivation to wrap up old business. Hint, for best results, mix work with play. When Venus, the planet of fun and relationships, enters Aquarius on Saturday, the 17th of January, our focus shifts to our communities. And also, Mercury, the planet of communication, teams up with Mars, the planet of aggression, on the same day. So prepare to cut through any tension that builds and say what needs to be said. Sunday's new moon in Capricorn, which we'll cover next week, will help you tie up any remaining loose ends. Allow yourself time to contemplate what's worked and what's tired. Then outline your next goals. See, again, we're out with the old, in with the new. This is from last week's, that was a blank slate, 2026, a blank slate. So there's this kind of and we're ending the year of the wood snake. We finish on the 17th of February and enter the year of the fire horse. So in the ending is the beginning, beginning is the ending. So we've got all of this energy. These first 90 days are high octane. So let's bring it back. So I want to go to Gene Key 61. And this is from Richard Rudd, Gene Keys, The Pulse. And Gene Key 61 is known as psychosis, inspiration, sanctity. What if everything in your life were sacred? So in essence, what if we treated everything in our lives as though it were sacred? It would be a different world. We would be different. Gene Key 61 is about inspiration from the higher planes. Mary rising, the Holy of Holies, a call to action, how Mary Magdalene takes the lead. This is the key of sanctity, where everything, even the lowest of the low, is seen and known as sacred. Try applying this to something in your life this week, but always ongoing. And this is a quote from Richard Rudd. Kindness is an extraordinary power. We can speak words of kindness and let that kindness resonate through our voices as genuine feeling coming from inside of us. Open to this possibility. And perhaps together we can tune into the currents of what it means to truly thrive as a species, even in times of change. We are in times of great change. And so we're moving. Remember, this is from psychosis to inspiration to sanctity to the revered. Well, I want to bring in This is, again, continuing with Gene Key 61, and this is from Glenda Hilsentiger, with credit to Alicia Hugevild and Christina Crow. And Gene Key 61, Sanctity. The 61st Gene Key moves from the shadow of psychosis to the city of sanctity, and it is the way of inspiration. We think that the world our mind sees is the world, yet this is not seeing the world created by the heart. This is our civilization. It comes about through greed, lust for power, and fear of death. The world of the shadow frequency. The word psychosis simply means a condition of the mind. So when we begin to move into states beyond the mind, we move into the territory where mainstream consciousness doesn't want to venture. It wants to keep us boxed in. It wants to control the narrative. The algorithms want to feed us more and more of something. But that's all of the mind, artificial intelligence. It's an illusion. Tearing away the veil of illusion, we all collectively rise. So this is moving beyond the mind into the territory where mainstream consciousness doesn't want to venture. It doesn't go there because science needs to retain its objectivity. And beyond the mind is an utterly subjective terrain. Beyond the mind is knowing. It's the divine feminine. It's your soul source connection. It's the master weaver, the host, the all that is. And when we put the ego, mind, personality, human in the sidecar, and we listen to our soul, that which is unseen, but it's all present, it's all knowing. And it is our internal knowing, gut, instinct, intuition, knowing. It knows. It knows true north. When you're working with the shadow of psychosis, look carefully at the thinking that you hold dear. Look at everything you've learned and know that this is a journey of unlearning. The knowledge can be useful. It can be beautiful. It can take you right to the edge, but it cannot take you across the abyss of death. So, be gentle with yourself and be crystal clear about your own mind. It isn't the enemy, but it isn't here to protect you either. We tend to use it, the mind, to try and make us feel safer. Yet if we don't feel safe, it's because we aren't accustomed to states beyond the mind. When we're afraid of the unseen, our intuition, our soul source connection, and we simply reside in the mind, look what happens in the world. That's because it's devoid of the divine feminine, the intuition, the knowing, the soul, that nourishment that guides us to do no harm, to love thy neighbor as thyself, and thy God, the unseen, above all other. Inspiration serves to loosen the hold of your mental constructs so that you can open and expand your capacity for love. Being inspired is listening to that which comes from within, from beyond the veil. It's allowing that to re-imprint your awareness with its truth. The secret to this gene key and to all of life is the beauty, wonder, and the healing power of creativity. The great creator, this is the one card, the magician, that we're co-creating with the divine, from the divine. And when we allow that to come through us, to permeate, that was our key word last week, when we allow that to permeate our being, anything's possible. And in the highest octave, the highest purity of that. Creativity soothes the mind. Music especially is the greatest salve for a troubled soul. Playing, listening, singing, it doesn't matter which. Music allows, it's music of the spheres, music, it's numbers. So music allows the mind to find its natural geometry, its harmonic basis within the world. The gift of inspiration is playing with the music of creation, whether it's dance, art, building, gardening, cooking, anything that has heart. that is attuned to a higher harmonic principle. Music has the power to move people, to lift us up, to excite us, to invigorate us, to care for us, comfort us. To be inspired means to be filled with the breath of life, to allow your soul to express its deepest longing, meaning its deepest purpose, its deepest value, to experience what it feels like to be divine. The 61st gene key looks for the sacred by creating it. It seeks the holy. It aspires to become empty in order to be filled with the divine. And only if you've cleaned the inner temple can the higher emanations enter. This is about emptying the vessel, honing and polishing our stone, making space for the new, making space for the divine. Because again, if we're locked in our ego, mind, personality, human, our thoughts, and those thoughts are impure, destructive, we bring more of that to us. However, when we connect to a higher octave, a higher power, and we make space for that to enter, then it becomes all encompassing. It permeates. So even the smallest speck of fear will keep the divine from entering. It takes courage to follow this path. It's a lonely but lovely path. This is that path where we're threading the needle. It's that very fine path, the path less traveled. And yet once we hone and polish that, we exercise the soul, we exercise that muscle, it grows in strength and confidence and presence. And so this is that beautiful, and here's something that everybody, when we have, intrusive thoughts or fear, simply stop and say faith. Repeat the word faith. So when you're feeling fear, just keep saying to yourself the word faith, 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 because they cannot coexist. Faith and fear cannot coexist at the same time. So you shift yourself, which means you're shifting your entire energy, your entire octave that ripples out, to choose faith. Or you can repeat the word love. So when something fear-based comes in, repeat the word love. You'll watch how it repels other things away, negative energies and so forth. So faith, love, these types of words. And in conclusion with Gene Key 61, to find wisdom, you must give up knowledge. Wisdom is alive. It's vibrant, wild, spontaneous, illogical, and paradoxical. Anyone can gain knowledge. Few become wise. The higher states are not the goal. It is the integration of higher states that is our destiny. And that demands that we are in our body, healthy, here in the world, as we explore what lies beyond this world that we can see. This is about bridging the two, as above, so below, and how, we walk in human bodies, in human form, yet we are divine. And it's allowing our divinity to come to the fore. Mary rising, the Holy of Holies, a call to action, how she will lead the way, and how she did so 2 millennia ago. Let's get into that. So let's look at Mary rising. And to do that, let's step back. We're going to step back for a second. Apostle to the apostles. Mary Magdalene is called the apostle to the apostles because she was the first person to see the risen Christ and was commissioned by him to announce the resurrection to the male apostles, who initially disbelieved her, making her the first messenger of the gospel's central event, a title formally recognized by figures like St. Thomas of Aquinas and the Catholic Church. She was a devoted follower, a witness to the crucifixion, and a financial supporter of Jesus' ministry. St. Thomas of Aquinas called Mary Magdalene the Apostolorum Apostola, apostle to the apostles, because she was the first person to witness the risen Christ and was commissioned by Jesus to announce his resurrection to the apostles themselves, making her the first messenger of the gospel's most crucial event, a role emphasized by her deep love and perseverance. This title highlights her unique mission as the primary witness and herald of the resurrection, this renewal, establishing her as a model for Christian life and the dignity of women within the church, a status affirmed by Pope Francis's elevation of her feast day. So there's this, and there are key aspects to this, but what we're being shown, what the history shows, is it was Mary Magdalene. It was this woman representing the divine feminine who was entrusted, is the one that was chosen to deliver these messages of resurrection, of new life, of hope. What she did then, she will be doing again. Astrology and so forth, and time, it's not identical, it's cyclical. And so there's this aspect of how she will do what she did then, again, now, for all of humanity, so that we do what? We rise. We heed the message that was offered 2,000 years ago. This is not a religious or Christian, individually Christian message. This is a universal, spiritual, faith-based message that transcends all, because it was made available to all. And so let's get into this even further. So she's a devoted follower, Mary Magdalene. She traveled with Master Jesus and the other women, providing for the group from her own means. So Mary Magdalene was a woman of means, meaning she was wealthy, but also spiritually wealthy. So monetarily or of the earth wealthy, but spiritually wealthy. She's present at the crucifixion and the burial. She's the first witness. And then she is given this title of the apostle to the apostles because of that. It even states in the Bible that she said, I will reveal to you that which the Master Jesus, kept from you to the other apostles. So she was entrusted with this divine knowing. Mary Magdalene's experience highlights the themes of transformation, faithful love, and inner wisdom, inviting others and followers to trust revelation, it's awakening, and inner knowing. Her story underscores the importance of women in early Christianity and their direct encounter with Christ, Master Jesus, even when challenged by male disciples. So here, look at the four. So we've been in this era of patriarchal Piscean rule, and how the divine feminine has been challenged, and how we've all been, shown to how to dim that light, the light of the divine feminine. And yet it's one of our greatest gifts, is this intuition, this knowing, this nurturing nature, this birthing of life that comes through the feminine. Now we have Venus as Mary Magdalene. We're going to tie these two together. So the connection between Venus and Mary Magdalene arises from shared symbolism. Both represent divine love, transformation, and the light bringer, with artists often depicting Mary Magdalene with Venus-like beauty to show her spiritual rebirth from a fallen state, linking her to classical ideals of female divinity, sensuality, and mystical resurrection, especially in Gnostic and Renaissance traditions, where she embodies both earthly desire and heavenly light. This symbolism ties Magdalene to ancient goddesses Ishtar, Aphrodite, and the planet's celestial patterns, the pentagram, that 5-pointed star. And let me just bring this up. because it's all about, we had this before, Venus, Venus, Venus. Well, this is the flower of Venus, the five-pointed star. And how in Renaissance times and especially in Gnostic and Renaissance traditions, she embodies this. And so it's the planet's celestial patterns, the pentagram. Venus is known as the morning and evening star, portraying her as a powerful feminine archetype of spiritual awakening and sacred sexuality. Sacred sexuality is the higher octave. It's not the carnal octave. It's the higher octave of the divine union of masculine and feminine. The purity of them, the reverence for them, the harmony of them, the yin-yang of them. Ultimately, the Venus Magdalene symbolism reclaims her as a powerful, light-bearing figure, bridging classical pagan divine feminine mysteries with Christian iconography. So they bridged these, they absorbed them. By absorbing them, they retained them. Key connections, interpretations. Mary Lucifera and the Lightbringer. In some traditions, she's called Mary Lucifera. Lucifera means Lightbringer, connecting her to Lucifer, the ancient Roman name for Venus, the morning star. In Gnostic texts, she's seen as a vessel for spiritual wisdom, Sophia, embodying the soul's ascent from illusion, or tearing away the veil of illusion. We all collectively rise. So she's seen as a vessel for spiritual wisdom, known as Sophia, embodying the soul's ascent from illusion, the Venusian realms, to divine wholeness. This is all bringing us about, and the orbit of Venus creates a five-pointed star, a pentagram on Earth, linking her to ancient wisdom and the petals of Venus, symbolizing the divine feminine cycles. During the Renaissance times, we had the troubadours, and this reverence, great reverence for the divine feminine. It was in pockets of places in southern France, in the Occitane region, and places, and it all where the Cathars and the Templars were, and so forth, where they knew and understood a higher octave of the divine feminine. And yet, the powers that be at the time snuffed it out, suppressed it. Now we're at the end. We're at the end of the Piscean era, the patriarchal era, and the beginning of the Aquarian matriarchal era, where this Mary rising, the Holy of Holies, a call to action, is rising within us. We're seeing it. And number 5 from the unseen, they're saying lead by example. And then the song, the lyrics from Celine Dion, it's all coming back to me now. We had this a few shows ago. It's all coming back to me now. And this call to action, in that when Neptune enters Aries, Saturn follows. Major cycles are beginning anew. I mean, multi-year cycles are beginning anew. So this is lead by example. It's all coming back to me now. The awareness of all of this truth, the veils of illusion being torn away, Mary rising. And what the unseen is saying is it's going to awaken within us. We're going to know it, feel it, think it. It's going to permeate our being with this awareness, with this truth. As we watch the dogma of the past, these illusions fall away. This is not to demonize the masculine or the men in the world. That is not the moral of the story or the point. It is to recognize within all of us where our divine masculine shadow elements are overrunning, the asylum, so to speak, where they're creating a false narrative. In Gene Key 61, how we go from psychosis to sanctity, city. It's a call to action. And lastly, in modern interpretations, Mary Magdalene's seen as the divine feminine archetype and the Holy Grail. embodying resurrection, rebirth, and the coming goddess epic, which is a Venusian mysteries focus. So there's a coming epic, a goddess epic. It's a divine feminine era epic. And we're all being called to rise to the occasion. So here is Venus, Mary, rising. And this ties into our mantra again, rise. And I just want to bring that up really quickly because the mantra rise, there we go. So spiritually rise means to awaken, renew, and elevate, moving from a lower state to a higher one, symbolizing overcoming trials, a divine call, transformation, and new life. It's a call to action to step into divine will and purpose, overcome challenges, and radiate spiritual light. So I know we just had that, but I wanted to repeat it because it also goes into our key word. And our key word, and I'm going to come back to Mary Magdalene. And our key word is transcendence. And look at that radiating gold within. Transcendence, existence or experience beyond the normal or physical level. Experience that goes past normal limits or the ability to achieve this. The act of rising above something to a superior state. Spiritual transcendence means going beyond ordinary experience to feel connected to something larger, like the universe, God, the divine, or humanity, dissolving self-boundaries to find deeper meaning, purpose, and unity, often through practices like meditation, prayer, nature, or art, or music. It's a shift in perspective from the limited self to a vast, timeless awareness, fostering feelings of awe, peace, and interconnectedness. So we have the beautiful rise, and we have transcendence, and we have Mary rising, the Holy of Holies. So let me go back to and complete Mary rising, the Holy of Holies. So again, spiritually, Venus, being Mary, rising signifies an awakening of the divine feminine, embracing beauty, love, pleasure, and self-worth as powerful forces, moving beyond superficiality to embody softness as strength. So we don't need to roar. We don't need to over-exercise our divine masculine. We can just be in resonance, in balance, in harmony. Know when to speak, meaning when to, hey, set a boundary, and when to just simply be. We don't have to yell and scream and run roughshod over others. So it's moving beyond superficiality to embody softness as strength, integrating sensuality with spirituality, and honoring inner cycles of growth, surrender, and rebirth, often seen as a call to reclaim one's authentic power and connection to the sacred. Mary rising, the Holy of Holies, a call to action. See, it's a call to reclaim one's authentic power and connection to the sacred, to the divine, to the unseen. It's about finding spiritual resonance in art, nature, relationships, and self-care, aligning with Venus's journey as both morning and evening star, symbolizing transformation and inner knowing. Fundamentally, Venus, Mary, rising is a spiritual call to live a life rich in love, beauty, and authentic connection, recognizing these as divine expressions of self and the universe. It's like when we recognize this beautiful, look at this, this transcendence of this gold within. It's recognizing these divine expressions of self and the universe, and that they're already within us. We come into this life with them. We exit this life with them. They're eternal. It's what we do with them in this life that matters. And so we're looking at all of this. And then the Holy of Holies, we're going to tie this together. So we've now shown Mary as the apostle to the apostles. She's like the prominent figure that announces the resurrection, the risen Christ. And that message was about rebirth. renewal, a higher octave, something greater on offer. So here's the Holy of Holies. The Holy of Holies, the Kodesh HaKodashim, was the most sacred inner sanctuary of the Israelite tabernacle and temples, representing God's dwelling place on earth, separated by a veil and housing the Ark of the Covenant. Accessible only to the high priest once a year on Yom Kippur, it's known as the Day of Atonement, to atone for Israel's sins by sprinkling sacrificial blood. It symbolized the barrier between a holy God and sinful humanity, a barrier Christians believe was torn by Jesus' death, offering direct access to God, to the divine. And remember, this is where the famous, where Master Jesus went in and he turned the tables at the temple, because the outer courtyard, which was meant for the Gentiles, was filled with bazaars. It was a bazaar. So it was filled with traders and mercantile, instead of allowing the Gentiles to be in the presence of God. And he says, I believe it's the Philistines, he was saying to them, you bar from the people what is not rightly yours. The message that Master Jesus had 2,000 years ago, this tearing the veil of illusion being torn away, and in this is that you have a direct connection to the divine, to God, to the Father, to the divine, the master weaver, the host. And what is it that we're doing with it? Are we exercising that connection? Are we awakened? How does it change us? This is not, again, a religious matter. Master Jesus was literally confronting the temple priests to say, what are you doing? And there's many verses that talk about go and pray in your closet, not in public and so forth. This isn't something for, that because you attend something and you're doing something in a certain way, that you understand that connection, or that you are utilizing it or harnessing it in the most pure and powerful manner. This is all speaking to the fact that 2,000 years ago, he said to the powers that be, the earthly, priestly powers that be, you're obstructing the people from the Father, from the host, from the divine, and they have an innate, direct connection. Mary Magdalene was entrusted with heralding that message to the others. She will do so again now. And 2,000 plus years later, it's incumbent upon us to heed the beauty, the purity of that message, that direct connection. That your soul source connection is the highest connection there is. And when you go direct, you have an unbreakable bond. It's unbreakable regardless. But the point is that, are you aware of it? This is a Mary rising, one for all and all for one, divine intervention. We all rise. We all collectively rise. In Judaism and the Old Testament, the innermost room of the tabernacle and later the Jerusalem temple is where the Holy of Holies is. It contained the Ark of the Covenant, the tablets of the law, and the mercy seat where God's presence, the Shekinah, manifested. Access was strictly forbidden to all but the high priest, who entered once yearly on Yom Kippur for atonement rituals. It marked the ultimate presence of God, of the divine, requiring immense holiness and separation from sin. But remember, Master Jesus tore that requirement and opened the way. In Christianity, Jesus' death is seen as the new access, the tearing of the veil, signifying that his sacrifice opened a new direct path for believers into God's presence, into the divine. Christians believe that believers can now enter the Holy of Holies, meaning God's presence, the divine's presence, through faith. Faith in Master Jesus, faith in the unseen, faith in the divine, and Master Jesus as the ultimate high priest. The veil, a thick curtain embroidered with cherubim, separated the Holy of Holies, symbolizing the barrier between the divine God and man. In Solomon's temple, the Holy of Holies was a perfect cube, symbolizing perfection and God's all-encompassing presence. Now we connect Mary Magdalene and the Holy of Holies. This connection between Mary Magdalene and the Holy of Holies centers on John's Gospel account, where she sees two angels at Jesus' empty tomb, a scene interpreted as mirroring the Ark of the Covenant's cherubim in the temple's Holy of Holies, making her the first to, quote, see God's, the divine's presence in a new, accessible way, thus becoming a priestly figure and apostle to the apostles, who proclaims the resurrection. Jesus transforms the tomb into a new holy space, and Mary, once seen as or mistook as deeply defiled, becomes a model for this new access to God, to the divine, a significant shift from the Old Testament's exclusive priesthood. The priesthood was divine masculine, patriarchal. This was a shift from that moment. It's 2,000 plus years later. And the moral of the story is the divine feminine, she's the one that heralded the message. She's the one that led us to this awakening, this possibility. Yes, by all means, it is Master Jesus, the Son of God. Yes. Without it, it all doesn't happen. And yet the divine feminine, the knowing, is what spreads the word, the awakening to this direct connection to God, to the divine, to the unseen. And so the tomb is the Holy of Holies, the empty tomb where Jesus' body lay, becomes a new sacred space, a new Holy of Holies. The two cherubim, the two angels at the head and foot of where Jesus lay, directly recall the two cherubim of the Ark of the Covenant, between which God's presence dwelt. Mary's priestly role. By seeing this vision, Mary Magdalene assumes a role similar to the high priest who alone could enter the Holy of Holies, but now for all believers. For all believers of the unseen, for this higher octave of being. She becomes the first person to see the risen Christ and is commissioned to announce his resurrection, fulfilling both priestly, seeing the holy, and prophetic, proclaiming roles. And then she's finally honored. Pope Francis finally honors her by acknowledging her title of apostle to the apostles, and recognizing her pivotal role in announcing the resurrection, a task traditionally reserved for the apostles, men. And this, of course, it's not a hidden understanding or secret. Look at the empowerment and the power of the divine feminine. And so when you're in fear or afraid or don't wish to share that power, that empowerment, you malign, you oppress, you suppress. And that's where we've been. And we're disconnected from that intuition, that knowing. It's greatly diminished. Well, Mary rising, the Holy of Holies. And it has symbolic significance. In the new covenant, Jesus' resurrection redefines holiness, opening up direct access to God, to the divine, symbolized by Mary's experience at the tomb, moving beyond the restrictions of the Old Testament temple. Mary's story highlights the transcendent themes of love, forgiveness, and transformation as she moves from a figure associated with sin in later traditions to the primary witness of Christ's new life, our new life. And so again, what she was entrusted with, empowered with, then the unseen is saying, here it comes, she will do so again. And that this time we heed the message, leading by example. It's all coming back to me now. This awareness of the truth. Number 6 from the unseen, they said, I heard the lyrics, hey sister, go sister, soul sister, flow sister. It's the lyrics from Lady Marmalade. And they said, demeaned and diminished no longer, the divine feminine restored. And the spiritual meaning about, pardon me, I'm looking, here we go, sorry. About Lady Marmalade. It carries a spiritual meaning centered on female liberation, empowerment, ownership of desire, and solidarity, meaning soul sisters, stemming from its origins as a song about a New Orleans prostitute, but evolving through its iconic versions into an anthem of unapologetic self-expression, particularly for women of color, changing societal norms. It speaks to claiming one's narrative, embracing sensuality, the intuition, the knowing, the divine feminine, and a powerful, almost primal connection between women. And so again, this is where the pendulum has swung so far one direction for so long. The natural, not outcome, but, you expect the pendulum to swing wildly to the other side. And this is where I say again, it's so important for us to heed the message that the divine feminine and the matriarchal era, the Aquarian era is about harmony, balance, unity, oneness, where the two, the divine masculine, the divine feminine, are in unity and harmony with one another. It is not, pardon me, the divine feminine over the divine masculine. And so we must address the fear, we've got to address the elephant in the room, where the divine masculine, who's been in charge for 2,000 plus years, is threatened, feels threatened. And for those that are, gendered female, recognize how that fear of the divine masculine creates, it's within us. It does not matter that your gender is female in this lifetime, because that divine masculine fear resides within all of us. So how do we bring them into unity and harmony? That's what's most important. And so we have this number 6, the Lady Marmalade, hey sister, go sister, soul sister, flow sister, and how the demeaned and diminished no longer, the divine feminine restored, it rises. And lastly, I want to jump to, we have 2 more things. I'm mindful of the time, so I want to get this all in because it's such a big show this week. And this is from astrobutterfly.com. And she's speaking about Sun conjunct Venus and Mars. All is fair in love and war. And this is an excerpt from this. And I'll post all of these on the Dearjames Facebook page. Behind the scenes, something important is resetting. Between January 7th and January 9th of 2026, we have a rare triple conjunction between the Sun, Venus, and Mars in mid-Capricorn. This is the turning point in Venus's synodic cycle, when Venus shifts from a morning star to an evening star. On January 9th, the Sun conjuncts Mars, initiating a brand new 2-year Mars cycle. The geometry of this configuration is spectacular. We won't see anything in the sky with Venus and Mars too close to the Sun, that's the Cazimis, and therefore invisible. So the divine masculine, the divine feminine, Mars and Venus, conjunct each other, conjunct the Sun, makes them invisible. Yet there is something serious, yet there is some serious Game of Thrones type twist happening behind the scenes. What might look like a celestial agreement, Sun, Venus, and Mars all aligned, is actually much more complex, with new beginnings and endings happening simultaneously. Let's unpack this. We'll start with Venus. When the Sun is conjunct Venus and Venus is direct like it is now, we have a so-called superior Venus conjunction. This is the quote full moon, or better said, the full Venus phase of Venus's 584-day cycle, a culmination or turning point where something about our values and relationships reach a peak and then matures into a new phase. Basically, Venus hits a climax point in her story. After wandering the early morning sky, doing her own thing, Venus is now connecting with the sun, our life purpose, and being brought into conscious alignment with it. Let's drop the nonsense. This is what I actually want. This is less about outer events and more about Venus doing something decisive on the inside. This is an awakening. This is a shift. This is a hard reset. This is Mary, Venus, Mary rising, the Holy of Holies, a call to action. When Venus conjuncts the sun, something clicks. And as a result of this click, we re-rank our priorities, rewrite relationship contracts, and redefine what's worth it and what's not. What about Mars? Mars's cycles are about how we go after what we want, because remember, it represents the creative force, the divine masculine. Mars cycles are very important because they describe what we are actually doing in the real world. When Mars is reborn with the sun, our instincts reset, and we feel motivated to start again with a new set of goals. A Sun-Mars conjunction, Cazimi, marks the beginning of a brand new hero or heroine's journey, a time to start fresh with new intentions and make new commitments. So you see how this is all aligning, like there's a new year. Then there's the switch from the Chinese New Year, from the wood snake to the fire horse. We have Mary rising, the Holy of Holies, this call to action, a divine call. astrobutterfly.com, Sun, Venus, and Mars. What's especially interesting is that right now the Venus and Mars cycles overlap, creating a triple Sun, Venus, Mars conjunction. This triple conjunction is not, is not accidental, but part of a pattern. Venus-Mars conjunctions form a broader 32-year rhythm. Each conjunction belongs to a series, and in the midpoint of each series, there is a Venus-Mars-Sun conjunction. So we've got a 32-year cycle or rhythm, and then in the middle of it, they come together. New series begin in a Venus-led way. She's calling the shots. The whole cycle is basically rooted in these Venusian values and desires that have been stirred inside of us. Pardon me. So the Sun-Venus-Mars conjunction is the midpoint checkpoint in the Venus-Mars story, where the relationship between desire, Venus, and action, Mars, is recoded through the sun. It's reborn. It's our mantra, rise. It's that phoenix. It's like the phoenix rising of Venus and Mars in this relationship and what it means. However, in this dynamic, in this 32-year rhythm and cycle, Venus is calling the shots. The divine feminine is calling the shots. What might look like a celestial agreement, Sun, Venus, and Mars all aligned, is actually a high-stakes, behind-the-scenes rewrite. Venus is at a turning point in her cycle. Values, desires, reorient. Mars is at the start of his cycle. Will and action, reset. Venus and Mars meet. The lover and the warrior renegotiate the terms. All of this unfolds under the sun. Identity and purpose become the arbiter. The sun is our identity and life purpose. So this checkpoint is a reality check, clarifying how our wants and desires need to be adjusted if they've become misaligned, unrealistic, or out of touch with a deeper purpose. Well, that's exactly what's happened. We've been misaligned, out of touch with our deeper purpose, our deeper truth, and our deeper knowing. And thus, it's time to rise. And here comes that hardcore reset, that renegotiation. between the divine feminine and the divine masculine. From this adjustment, Mars then takes the lead, translating revised values into action and taking the necessary steps to make these recalibrated goals and desires real. So the divine masculine receives what the divine feminine, here's the plan, and then we harness that creative force, that divine, the purity of the divine masculine, to go make it real. The conjunction between Venus and Mars is incredibly important because Venus is the feminine, yin principle, and Mars the masculine, yang principle. When the two meet, creation becomes possible. Something that didn't exist before takes shape through this chemical reaction, this coming together, this higher octave. The Sun-Venus-Mars conjunction is in Capricorn. Capricorn is the part of the zodiac where the rubber meets the road. Goals, systems, deep commitments, contracts, status, and long-term consequences. When the Sun, Venus, and Mars meet in Capricorn, we become more driven and motivated to clarify our personal wants and desires and find ways to manifest them in the real world. This is when our sense of drive and achievement is at an all-time high. So all of this is occurring in Capricorn. So we have, and Elizabeth is saying, is this similar to staying in a peaceful patience or applying inner peace through each action? Possibly both. Yes, we are threading this fine needle between the past and the present future. And it is the path less traveled. And so we're at this moment where it's not to do nothing, in other words, just completely do nothing. And it's not to run roughshod and aggressively advance. It's that peduncle, it's the threading of the needle, it's that very fine path that few travel that says, I'm actively listening to the unseen, to my soul source connection, so that when I strike with the iron being hot. I don't run out and do something that I have to undo, and I don't do nothing so that the opportunity passes me by. I'm walking this very fine path. And what they keep showing me, it's almost like the walls. We had Proverbs, the Proverbs 25-28, about the walls of the city. Well, around the walls of ancient cities are the walking paths, where you could walk the perimeter. So they're showing me this very narrow, or like the Chinese wall, the Great Chinese Wall. It looks, when you look down on it on topography, it looks very fine and narrow. And there's the vastness that's out beyond it. That's the image, is this image of walking a very narrow, fine path to rise, to be delivered. And so however you stay in harmony and pace and peace with that. So again, faith, love, anything that balances you to stay in the mindset of that you're walking that fine path, and that you do so with willingly, with exuberance, with faith and determination and commitment, knowing that you will be delivered exactly where you need to be. That is what all of this is speaking to, and that Mary, Master Jesus, all of everything that happened 2,000 years ago is being brought to the fore for us to heed the message of what was on offer then. But we've somehow diminished it and delayed it and oppressed it and suppressed it and given that power away. When Master Jesus said 2,000 years ago to the priests of the temple, what are you doing? You're barring from the people, you're keeping for your own empowerment, your own lust and power and greed. You're barring from the people what is rightfully theirs. What's rightfully yours is the Father, the Master Weaver, the host, the unseen, the divine, that direct connection. And how when you come into alignment with it, it's a game changer, period. I just want to close with 3 of our quotes. We didn't get to This is from divination.com, or pardon me, the master at divination.com, but it's from the master. And it says, do not play the host, but become the guest. This is about soul source connection. And you see how the lotus is wide open and radiating this vitality because of its connection to the divine, to the sun, to source. And these two quotes are from divination.com. At the core of true success lies unselfishness, generosity, and modesty. So at the core of true success, it is the divine feminine. Unselfishness, generosity, modesty, humility, grace, knowing. And lastly, a lasting prosperity is one that honors the highest values and furthers the collective good. A lasting prosperity is one that honors the highest values and furthers the collective good. This is about one for all and all for one. The Aquarian matriarchal era. Pardon me. And so I'll leave you with number 7, which is number 7, and from the unseen. And of course, 7 represents the foundation of God's word, of the divine's word. And it represents divine perfection, completion, and fulfillment. This isn't just commentary. This is a promise fulfilled. It's the foundation of all. And that is where we find ourselves in this second week of January, which is the 14th of January. Well, it's divisible by 7. And last week was January 7th, a 7. This culminates in a 7. So we have this trifecta statement about the foundation, pardon me, of the divine's word. This divine completion and fulfillment, or deliverance. And just going to pop this back up because I love it. ZORRO, watch how this Sun, Venus, and Mars conjunction, and how Venus is in charge, and the Mary rising, and the Holy of Holies, a call to action. Watch how ZORRO takes a bite out of crime bigly. Watch. And be ready. All right, we will see you all next week. Thank you for your presence, your comments, your likes, your shares, your subscribes. All of this helps Weekly Wisdom and Insights in the channel and everything. So until next week, we will see you then.